Friends, I need to tell you about the day an entire courtroom stood up and saluted. A decorated war hero stands accused of harassment. His crime? Talking to a teenager in a lobby. His appearance? Tattoos covering both arms. A mother sees him, panics, and calls the authorities. But Judge Caprio doesn't judge a man by his ink. He judges him by his heart. And when the truth is revealed, when the judge asks this veteran to explain what's written on his skin, grown men cry, the accuser breaks down, and justice is served in the most beautiful way. If you believe our veterans deserve respect, stay with me. Comment below. Do you know a veteran? Let's honor them together. The courtroom is quiet. Sunlight streams through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the wooden benches. People sit scattered throughout, some checking their phones, others whispering nervously to their lawyers. At the front, behind his bench, sits Judge Frank Caprio. His white hair is neatly combed. His eyes are kind but sharp. He's seen thousands of cases in this room, but every single person who stands before him is treated with the same dignity. Today, something feels different. The bailiff calls the next case. Case number 4782. Amanda Sterling versus Richard Morrison. From the left side of the room, a woman stands. Amanda Sterling, mid-40s, blonde hair perfectly styled, a designer blazer, diamond earrings that catch the light. She walks to the front with confidence, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. Her lawyer, a young man in an expensive suit, follows closely behind. From the right side, an older man rises slowly. Richard Morrison. He's 72 years old, but he stands straight, shoulders back. He wears a simple button-down shirt, rolled up to the elbows. And there, visible to everyone in the room, are his arms, covered in tattoos, names, dates, symbols, coordinates. Some people in the courtroom glance at him and then quickly look away. Others stare a little too long. Richard walks forward alone, no lawyer, just him. Judge Caprio watches both of them approach. He leans forward slightly, resting his hands on the bench. "Good morning," he says warmly. "Mrs. Sterling, Mr. Morrison, please state your names for the record." Amanda speaks first, her voice clear and firm. "Amanda Sterling, Your Honor." Richard nods respectfully. "Richard Morrison, sir." Judge Caprio glances down at the paperwork in front of him, then back up. "Mrs. Sterling, you've brought a complaint against Mr. Morrison. Can you tell me, in your own words, what happened?" Amanda takes a breath. She looks at the judge, then briefly at Richard, then back to the judge. "Your Honor, 3 weeks ago, I was at my apartment building, the Sterling Residences on Elmwood Avenue. It's a secure building, residents only. My son, Jason, he's 19, was in the lobby waiting for me." She pauses, as if the memory still frightens her. "I was upstairs getting my keys, and when I came down, I saw him." She gestures toward Richard, standing very close to my son. "Talking to him. I didn't know who he was. I'd never seen him before. And when I got closer, I saw his arms." Her voice drops, becoming more dramatic. "Tattoos everywhere, Your Honor. My son looked uncomfortable. I immediately stepped between them and asked this man what he was doing. He didn't answer me clearly. He just walked away. I felt threatened. My son felt threatened. I reviewed the security footage later, and it showed this man approaching my son without invitation." Amanda's lawyer nods, as if everything she said is irrefutable fact. "I want a restraining order, Your Honor. I want this man to stay away from my family and my building. I don't know what his intentions were, but I'm not taking any chances." Judge Caprio listens carefully. He doesn't interrupt. When Amanda finishes, he nods slowly. "Thank you, Mrs. Sterling." He turns to Richard. "Mr. Morrison, what's your side of this?" Richard stands a little straighter. His voice is calm, steady, with the quiet authority of someone who's seen too much to be rattled by accusations. "Your Honor, I was visiting a friend in that building, Charlie Brennan. He lives on the 4th floor. We serve together. I visit him every few weeks." He glances at Amanda, then back to the judge. "I was in the lobby waiting for Charlie to come down. The elevator was slow. This young man, Jason, he was sitting on the bench near the door. He looked lost. Sad, maybe. I don't know. I've seen that look before." Richard's voice softens. "I asked him if he was okay. He said he was fine. We talked for maybe 2 minutes. I told him I was waiting for a friend. He told me he was waiting for his mom. I said, 'Well, I hope you have a good day, son.' Then I moved toward the elevator." He shakes his head gently. "That's when his mother came down. She looked at me like I was a criminal. I didn't argue. I just left. I didn't want to cause trouble. Judge Caprio nods thoughtfully. He looks down at the file again. Mrs. Sterling, did your son tell you he felt threatened? Amanda hesitates, just for a second. Well, not in those exact words, Your Honor, but I could tell. A mother knows. Judge Caprio taps his pen on the bench. I see. And Mr. Morrison, you said you were visiting a friend, Charlie Brennan. Is he here today? Richard nods. He's in the hospital, Your Honor. Heart surgery last week. But I can give you his number if you need it. Judge Caprio makes a note. I may take you up on that. Then he looks up, his eyes moving between Amanda and Richard. Before I make any decisions here, I'd like to ask a few more questions. But what Judge Caprio asks next changes everything. Because he's not interested in assumptions. He's interested in the truth. And the truth is written all over Richard Morrison's arms. Judge Caprio leans back in his chair, studying Richard carefully. Mr. Morrison, I'd like to ask you about your tattoos. The courtroom goes quiet. Amanda shifts uncomfortably. Richard looks down at his arms, then back up at the judge. What would you like to know, sir? Judge Caprio's voice is gentle, almost fatherly. They're very detailed. Names, dates, coordinates, it looks like. What do they represent? For the first time, Richard's expression softens. His eyes grow distant, as if he's looking back across decades. They're my brothers, Your Honor. The judge nods slowly. Your brothers? Yes, sir. The men I served with in Vietnam. The ones who didn't come home. A hush falls over the room. Even Amanda's lawyer stops shuffling his papers. Richard lifts his right arm slightly, pointing to a name near his wrist. David Chen, April 12, 1968. Khe Sanh. He was 21 years old. He saved my life. Took a bullet meant for me. He moves his finger to another name, higher on his forearm. Marcus Webb, June 3, 1969. Ambush outside Da Nang. He was supposed to go home the next week. He had a baby daughter he never got to meet. Richard's voice doesn't waver, but the weight of his words fills the room. There are 23 names on my arms, Your Honor. Every one of them is a man I served with. A man I couldn't save. I got out. They didn't, so I carry them with me every day. Judge Caprio's expression is one of deep respect. He nods slowly. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Morrison, and thank you for your service. Richard nods once. It was my honor, sir. Judge Caprio looks back at Amanda. Mrs. Sterling, I'd like to hear from your son. Is Jason here today? Amanda's confidence falters. I didn't think it was necessary, Your Honor. This is a simple restraining order. I'd like to hear from him, Judge Caprio repeats, his tone firm but kind. If he felt threatened, I want to hear it from him directly. Amanda exchanges a glance with her lawyer. After a tense moment, she nods. He's outside. I'll get him. A few minutes later, a young man enters the courtroom. Jason Sterling, 19 years old. Tall, thin, nervous. He looks at his mother, then at Richard, then at the judge. Jason, Judge Caprio says warmly, come on up. Don't be nervous. I just want to ask you a few questions. Jason walks forward, his hands in his pockets. Jason, do you remember meeting Mr. Morrison 3 weeks ago in your building's lobby? Yes, sir. Can you tell me what happened? Jason glances at his mother. She's staring at him, her expression unreadable. He takes a breath. I was waiting for my mom. I was having a bad day. My dad died 2 years ago, and I don't know. Sometimes it just hits me. I was sitting there trying not to cry, and this man, Mr. Morrison, he asked if I was okay. Jason's voice cracks slightly. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just nice. He told me that whatever I was going through, it would get better. He said he'd lost people too. We talked for like 2 minutes. That's it. Judge Caprio nods gently. Did you feel threatened? No, sir. Not at all. Did he touch you or say anything inappropriate? No, sir. He was respectful. Honestly, I felt better after talking to him. Amanda's face goes pale. Judge Caprio looks at her. Mrs. Sterling, your son says he didn't feel threatened. In fact, it sounds like Mr. Morrison showed him kindness during a difficult moment. Amanda opens her mouth, then closes it. She has no response, but Judge Caprio isn't done. Because there's one more piece to this story. One connection that no one in this courtroom could have expected. And when it's revealed, everything changes. Judge Caprio looks at Jason. Jason, you said your father passed away 2 years ago. I'm very sorry for your loss. Can I ask, what was your father's name? Jason blinks, surprised by the question. Michael Sterling. Judge Caprio glances at Richard. Mr. Morrison, does that name mean anything to you? Richard's expression shifts. His eyes widen slightly. He looks at Jason as if seeing him for the first time. Michael Sterling? Richard repeats quietly. Yes, sir, Jason says. Richard's voice drops to almost a whisper. Did your father serve in the military? Jason nods. Yeah, Marines, Vietnam. He didn't talk about it much, but yeah. Richard's hand moves slowly to his left forearm. He touches a name near his elbow. Your Honor, may I approach the bench? Judge Caprio nods. Please. Richard walks forward. He stops in front of Jason and gently turns his left arm so the boy can see. There, etched in black ink, is a name, Michael J. Sterling, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, 1968 to 1969. Jason stares at the tattoo. His breath catches. That's my dad. Richard nods, his eyes glistening. Your father saved my life, son. We were pinned down outside Hugh City. Mortar fire everywhere. I was hit in the leg, couldn't move. Your dad dragged me back to cover, took shrapnel in his back doing it. He spent 3 months recovering, but he got me out. Jason's eyes fill with tears. I didn't know. He never told me. He wouldn't have, Richard says softly. Men like your father don't brag. They just do what needs to be done. The courtroom is completely silent. Several people are wiping their eyes. Richard looks at Jason with deep compassion. When I saw you sitting there that day, looking so sad, I didn't know who you were. I just saw a kid who needed someone to care. If I'd known you were Michael's son, his voice breaks. I would have told you that your father was one of the bravest men I ever knew, and he'd be so proud of the young man you've become. Jason can't hold it in anymore. He steps forward and hugs Richard. The old veteran wraps his arms around the boy, and they stand there, 2 generations connected by sacrifice and loss. Amanda Sterling stands frozen, her hand over her mouth. Tears stream down her face. Judge Caprio waits until Jason and Richard step apart. Then he speaks, his voice thick with emotion. Mrs. Sterling, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Amanda looks up, her face wet with tears. You came into this courtroom today asking me to punish a man you didn't know, a man you judged based on his appearance. You saw tattoos and assumed danger. You saw age and assumed threat. You didn't ask questions. You didn't seek the truth. You just assumed the worst. He pauses, letting the words settle. And because of that, you almost destroyed something beautiful. You almost kept your son from knowing the man who served alongside his father. The man who carries his father's name on his skin like a badge of honor. Amanda is trembling now. Judge Caprio's tone softens, but remains firm. I'm not going to issue a restraining order, Mrs. Sterling. Mr. Morrison has done nothing wrong. In fact, he showed your son compassion when he needed it most. That's not a crime. That's humanity. He looks at Richard. Mr. Morrison, on behalf of this court and this community, I want to thank you for your service, for your sacrifice, and for the kindness you showed a young man who needed it. The judge stands, and then, slowly, everyone in the courtroom stands with him. One by one, people rise to their feet. The bailiff, the court reporter, the lawyers, the spectators. They stand in silence, honoring the man with the tattooed arms. Richard Morrison, the 72-year-old Marine veteran, stands tall. A single tear rolls down his cheek. Judge Caprio sits back down. The courtroom follows. Mrs. Sterling, I'm going to do something unusual here. I'm not going to hold you in contempt, even though you wasted this court's time with a baseless accusation. But I am going to ask something of you. Amanda looks up, her face red and tear-stained. I want you to spend 40 hours volunteering at the Veterans Support Center downtown. I want you to meet the men and women who serve this country. I want you to hear their stories. And I want you to learn that a person's worth isn't measured by how they look. It's measured by what they've done and who they are. He pauses. Do you accept this? Amanda nods quickly. Yes, Your Honor. Yes, I'm so sorry. She turns to Richard. Mr. Morrison, I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was scared and stupid, and I'm just so sorry. Richard nods gently. It's all right, ma'am. We all make mistakes. Judge Caprio smiles. Mr. Morrison, this case is dismissed. You're free to go. And Jason, he looks at the young man. You just met a living connection to your father. Don't let that go. Ask him questions, learn his stories, honor your dad by knowing the men who stood beside him. Jason nods, wiping his eyes. I will, Your Honor. Thank you. The screen fades to soft piano music. Text appears 6 months later. We see Amanda Sterling, dressed casually, serving coffee at the Veteran Support Center. She's smiling, talking warmly with an older veteran in a wheelchair. No designer clothes, no arrogance, just humility and service. Cut to Richard Morrison sitting on a park bench. Beside him is Jason. They're looking at old photographs. Jason is laughing at something Richard said. The sun is setting behind them. Amanda completed her 40 hours at the Veterans Center and never stopped volunteering. She found purpose in serving those who served. And Richard? He didn't just become a friend to Jason. He became family, a grandfather figure, a keeper of stories, a living link to a father Jason thought he'd lost forever. Cut to a close-up of Richard's arm. Jason's hand is there, tracing the letters of his father's name. Because sometimes, friends, justice isn't about punishment. It's about opening our eyes. It's about seeing past the surface. And it's about honoring those who gave everything so we could live free. Final shot. Richard and Jason walking together down a tree-lined path, side by side. Text appears, honor those who serve, see beyond the surface, choose compassion. Friends, if this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And tell me in the comments, do you know a veteran? Have you ever been judged unfairly? Let's honor those who sacrifice by choosing to see people for who they truly are. Thank you for being here. Until next time, choose kindness.